And good day, it's Jamie Shell here with the Avery Journal-Times, here with our Viking Coaches Show for Basketball Edition. Here with Coach Allison Phillips of the Avery Lady Vikings varsity girls basketball team. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us a little bit about your team this day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Coach, I know you've got 4 games already, 5 technically in the books, 4-1 total. You have 4 games last week. We were just talking earlier before we came on that it's, almost a quarter of a season and compacted into like a week's time.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me just how much y'all have been out on the floor.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit just about your team just in general, just assess what you've seen from them so far that has really been positive, and maybe a couple of things you feel like the team still is looking to work on to kind of continue to improve?
Yeah, when we kind of reflected last Saturday, I realized we played 5 games in 8 days. So that's not ideal. I'm an idiot when it comes to scheduling. But I love the fact that our girls had to go through a little early resilience because we need to build that mentally. We have one of the older teams in the conference, and the expectation is that they play like that they're able to overcome like the small, mental things that can totally trip people up. And I think we learned a lot about ourselves Saturday at Watauga.
Right.
I think a lot of times you learn a lot more from a loss than you do some early wins. So it's good to kind of reflect on the things that we need to clean up and give us a little bit more motivation going into this week.
With those 5 games, again, Watauga was the lone really close game that you've had.
Yeah.
In each of your 4 wins, they've been kind of going away. You've had 20, 25-point leads, at least in each of those contests.
Yeah.
And again, what do you mentioned the Watauga loss, which again was a game that you all fell behind in early, down 15 at the half. You came out with a 12-0 run in that third quarter to get right back into it and really showed Sparsity, yes, we're liable, or we're able to kind of flip a switch sometimes. I know that's not something as a coach you always want to see, but we need to flip it on. But can you talk just a little bit about the challenges of playing teams that maybe aren't at your level and you're having to, I don't want to say manufacture enthusiasm, but you really have to maybe work a little harder as a coach to have those players up and pumped and ready to execute as flawlessly as they might when you step on the floor with, say, a Mountain Heritage or a Watauga?
Yeah. For us, we try to preach the intensity doesn't change, and the intensity starts with us, and I think all the 4 games that we won we came out, we were the aggressors. We came out, we were very efficient in our press. We came out, caused early turnovers. In the Watauga game, it was like we were just a little bit rattled early because we didn't hit early shots. I think in the first quarter, alone, we had probably missed like 8 layups that would have solidified a pretty good lead for us. I know we missed 3 in the first minute and a half that normally go in. I think not getting frustrated by early misses is going to be a really big thing for us. Because so much offense is generated off of our press and so much offense is generated from our defense. When we're not getting what we want, where do we go to? What do we fall back on? And are we panicked in those moments? Because what we saw was when we weren't generating early offense, our defense wasn't as sharp in the half-court set. So we were trailing and we were chasing defenders instead of stopping defenders, and we were getting out of rotation and out of sync, and we stopped communicating, and we showed visible signs of frustration, which as a coach I would rather see now and address and fix, as opposed to not seeing that until we get to Heritage. Watauga is a very long, athletic girls basketball team, and they're playing more team basketball this year than they did in the past. When you have a dominant scorer, that dominant scorer takes the majority of the workload, right? Now everybody's having to handle the ball, everybody's having to share the workload, and they have a really talented freshman who kind of diced us up in the first quarter until we were able to settle in and start playing good basketball. The problem with us is our shots aren't consistent. We're not hitting our jump shots consistently, and those ebbs and flows of not being able to score in a half-court set is really frustrating for us.
But you have a veteran team. You mentioned that already. You have number of juniors and seniors, and so far this season, it's been Caroline and Marley kind of handling Marley Jones, Caroline Hollifield. You're kind of love the offensive burden so far. I know they each had 20 points in one of your wins, and I know Marley seems like she's been very active, especially on the glass rebounding. Caroline, oh, good night. The one game I guess against Smoky Mountain, she had 13 steals, some crazy number. Just was really, really active and just possessed, I guess, so to speak. But again, you mentioned being a team dynamic. You know, when you have a couple of players and you have a lot of options.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like in a game you could rely on one of, 5, 6, 7 different players that could step up, or 2 or more. Can you just speak to just the dynamic of having to handle that kind of talent as a coach with that many?
It's an awesome problem to have, but it's hard in the sense to give them a sense of urgency as to, well, if I don't do it, someone else can. That's often a scary place to be as a coach because, well, if you're passive about it, if I don't do it, and you don't do it, and you don't do it, and you don't do it, then who's going to do it? And for us, a lot of our offense is generated through Caroline and Marley, but Caroline and Marley are 2 people that people are going to key on. So Hallie's got to be able to score. Addison Dellinger's got to be able to score for us. Callie Ray's been a huge bright spot for us, coming in defensively and offensively. Addison Herbert has dealt with some health issues. Again, we're having to limit her minutes. She's getting 2 minutes a quarter right now because of her feet. She's battled stress fractures, and she's a warrior, but we need her on the court, And when she's not on the court, Callie Ray has been an awesome spark to come off the bench for us. Kylie Holtzclaw's come off the bench and filled Addison's role really well as that kind of point guard, number 2 with Hallie going through that. I think Tilly can give us that offensive spark.
Right.
There's a number of people who can do that, on our roster. It's everybody doing and stepping up in those moments consistently. And Saturday, I think we were 0 for like 10 or 12 from the three-point line. We could not buy a jump shot. Hallie finally hit a couple in the second half to get her going. Caroline hit a couple. But, we can score 20 points in a quarter so easily.
Right.
But we can also go through really big scoring droughts, and that's what hurts us. And we missed a ton of free throws and layups that game. We probably had 8 different looks at taking the lead in that fourth quarter and just couldn't finish. And that's a maturity thing. That's a thing that we've got to overcome.
Which is interesting you say that, with it being a veteran team.
Yeah.
That you still have, even though the veterans people have to also remember, you got 16, 17-year-old, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids here still, trying to mesh and learn here in the early season.
And last year, when we needed something big, a lot of times Maddie got that for us. Whether it wasn't necessarily her scoring, but it was a stop or a steal or a, like a verbal, we're going to do this kind of thing. We're still kind of looking for that verbal leader.
Right.
The way that Hallie, Addison, and Caroline just operate as human beings exudes leadership. But I'm still challenging them to be more vocal and, to kind of, when we have those big moments, it's okay to be vocal with your teammates. It's okay to say, buck stops with me.
Right.
We're gonna get a stop. We're gonna score, and we're gonna go and win this game.
This might be an unusual question you hear, but I've seen this from time to time with teams. Are there players on your team that aren't selfish enough? In a sense that that they want to get everybody involved.
Yeah.
But like you said, sometimes you need someone to just take the reins and lead.
Yeah.
How do you cultivate that?
They're the most unselfish group of humans ever, which is a wonderful testament to them as human beings.
Right.
It's not a great testament to them as basketball players sometimes.
Sure.
Sometimes we need them to be more selfish. We're still figuring out because so many people could be the go-to at the end of the game. I tell them all the time in practice, the 5 that are on the court, I don't really have a problem. There's not a person I would say you don't need to shoot the last shot, because they can all be that player. They can all be that person. I've got 3 people sitting on the bench that could be that person,
Sure.
But how do you decide who needs to be that person? Who's the most comfortable being that person? Sometimes I'll say in practice, all right, raise your hand if you want to be the person that takes the last shot. You'd be surprised who actually does and who actually doesn't.
Right.
I think that's going to come with time. And the more close games we can play, the more competitive teams we can play, the Hamptons, the Wataugas, the Mountain Heritage, that's when we're going to see who really wants the ball at the end of the game. And I'm excited to see how that kind of transpires. Hallie's hit a big shot in her career. Everybody knows that 8th grade shot that she hit to beat Avery Middle.
Right.
And I think Caroline has the ability to do that. Marley has the ability to do that. Addison Herbert has the ability to do that. Addison Dellinger, Tilly, you can name all of them. They all truly have the ability to do that. It's who wants to do that in the big moment,
Right.
And I don't know that I have a real good answer for who does right now.
Who wants to be selfish?
Yeah.
No, you don't go asking
Yeah.
that necessarily. Sure.
No, and you don't, and you want them to play team ball, and you want them to share the basketball. They do that at such a high clip.
Yeah.
But in a big game, someone's got to be the person with the ball, and then everybody else has to do their job. If it doesn't go to that person or it's a kick out, I'm confident enough to take the shot. There's no hesitation.
Right.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, but to have those kind of problems is not a bad thing. I imagine.
It's
Considering,
not.
Still, don't make it sound like you're 1-4. You're 4-1, could easily be 5-0.
Yeah.
Like you said, with the game with Watauga, just watching that matchup. I go back to that game Saturday. You mentioned the freshmen, and I wondered looking at that game Saturday what they would look like playing you all, because they didn't. They're all-star. Case Sears was such an amazing player.
Yeah.
Now at Virginia Tech, that speaks to itself. But like you said, again, they've reloaded with Mayo, another freshman. I'm not saying you hold the Mayo. I really wanted to use that, but I didn't. I didn't want to be too
in that
cliche.
game, we looked like two different teams.
Yeah.
We looked like ourselves in the second half. We came out, we were intense, we were pressing, we were active hands. The first half, we just looked flat, and it was a flat atmosphere. It felt like a scrimmage. It was girls only. It's just a very strange kind of like situation to be in. Their gym's really big, and there's not a lot of crowd, and I think we've got to be able to mentally overcome those small details and be consistent every single night. And that's what we're shooting for, is consistency.
Right. I know tonight, on this Tuesday as we're recording, you have Ashe County coming up. I know yourself, of course, even going back to Coach Wiseman and Coach Lyons, coaching against the likes of Coach Foster over there. It always seemed like Ashe had a pretty good answer to the press. It seemed like they were really a well-prepared team.
Yeah.
When you see this version of the Lady Huskies this season, what do you see?
Yeah. So their best player reclassified and went to Wofford.
Okay.
That would have been their best player this year. So they don't have her, but they're super scrappy. They play hard on defense. They are aggressive. They're smart. Coach Ashley is a great coach, so she's always got them super prepared. They're younger than they have been in the past. But they're going to come out and firing on all cylinders. Ashe was my least favorite team to play against as a player because of Coach Foster's defense, and I've just completely embedded that into my coaching philosophy as a coach. So there's always a special place in my heart for Ashe. They wear purple, so I always want to beat them super badly because of that. But ultimately, it's going to be a good test for us. I'm curious to see how my team responds after a loss. My entire team is sick right now. I'm pretty sure half of them have the flu, so it will be a very good mental test for us to see how can we come out after some adversity and play. I'm excited to see what they do tonight.
And of course, you've got a little break. This being the only game this week, of course, then you got a little bit of the Thanksgiving break, and then you still continue. You get to see Watauga again, right? You get to see them over here.
We're super excited about that.
You get to see Ashe twice. Looking forward to that. And then the Christmas, you usually have a Christmas tournament coming up. Is that McDowell again this season?
We don't have a Christmas tournament
this
year.
I thought you did have one. I'm sorry.
No,
I haven't
our
looked at the schedule in a bit.
Front-loaded with a lot of big games before Christmas, and then it's like total conference after Christmas. So I'm super excited about Hampton. That's a super physical team. We know that they're going to run a lot of good shots from them. They're going to attack the basket. I'm super excited to play them, just as a really good test to see where we are against a physical squad, because we know Heritage is going to be physical.
Absolutely. And of course, we haven't had a chance to talk a whole lot, except we did preseason, of course, with the interview. But again, have you had a chance to look at all at the conference so far? Of course, we know about Heritage being, Susie Shelton, that's all you got to say as far as Heritage goes. But again, Mitchell, of course, with one of your former assistants with Hannah down there. And, you look at new schools like Polk, Hendersonville, kind of what to expect. What are you seeing so far from your kind of 30,000-foot view conference-wise, what you expect?
Yeah, let's see. So I was trying to think. Somebody we beat pretty badly last week. Smoky Mountain played Madison and absolutely massacred them.
Okay.
So it's a pretty lopsided victory for Smoky Mountain. Hendersonville's played some close games with Asheville High. I think they lost by 1 last night. We watched, Mitchell doesn't start till next week. But they're young. They're very young, but Hannah's always going to have them playing hard. She's always going to coach them super well. Polk, Bailey Staten's returning for Polk, so they've got their primary scorer. I think she dropped 37 the other night in their game. So, I mean, she is their go-to scorer. Hendersonville, I'm excited to play. I'm super excited to play Hendersonville. Historically, when I was a player, they weren't the greatest team, but they were always kind of athletic and scrappy. I think it's similar right now. I know they have 2 really good guards, so I'm pumped to see how we match up against them. I think for the conference as a whole, it's a great year for us to be where we are. And, you know, I have high expectations. My team has high expectations. But until we beat Heritage, you know, like it's what we've kind of talked about as a team. That first game against Heritage is really big. You know, you have to go out and beat the best team to prove that you're the best team. And that is certainly circled on our
I'm going to say you played them 4 times last season. And I know
I would have played them 14 more times. I love playing them. Coach Sheldon's been a great mentor to me, and I respect them so much. It's fun to play against them because you always know how hard they're going to play, you know. And a lot of things that we do is, you know, like in preparation for them. Heritage is probably mentioned in our practice at least 5 times a week. You know, when we play Heritage, you have to X, Y, and Z. You know, when it comes to like cleaning things up and being more efficient, rebounding and boxing out and being physical. And, you know, they're the whole reason why we are literally in the weight room every chance that we can get. And that's boded well for us. I think in the Smoky Mountain game, you know, Caroline was just literally ripping the ball out of people's hands. Well, that's a testament to how much she's been in the weight room all season, you know, and all spring and all summer. Addison Dellinger, if we can get her to use her body, can be the most physical person on the court. Marley's done a great job protecting the basketball and driving. So that's something that, you know, we're really trying to harp on.
Yeah, I mean, the size, you have all the tools as a team, right? Size, athleticism, scrappiness, you've got all of that. And again, I would say many folks would probably say that you all will be favored to win the conference or at least top 2 minimum. Expectations can be lofty and they can also be burdensome. Did your girls, do they feel that? You mentioned how you're often talking about Heritage. I'm sure, you know, Coach Gage's guys probably talking about Mitchell a lot. You know, guys that, you know, teams that you face a lot that always seem to bring the game to you. How does your expectations adjust to that and your girls, the pressure on them?
I think the thing we preach the most is consistency. You know, I want them to be consistent and that expectation doesn't change when we play Heritage. You know, so every single night you're playing hard. Every single night you're communicating. I don't want a team that's going to get up for Heritage but not get up for Polk, or you know, get up for Mitchell but not get up for a Hendersonville. You know, if we're going to win the conference, consistency is the thing that we're going to have. And the team that we saw in the second half against Watauga and in the previous 4 games, that's the team I want to see all the time. And that's what we kind of said at halftime. It's like, I don't know who those people were playing basketball the first half, but I don't ever want to see them again, you know, and they internalize that a little bit. You know, I was speaking with Caroline Saturday night. She said, I hate losing. And I hope that we can all get to where we hate losing so bad that it just kind of propels us to not let it happen again.
Yeah. I mean, you've went on several runs over the course of the last, you know, several seasons where you'll go and win. Run 7, 8, 9 in a row. And I think this team has that capability as well. I know I asked this to Coach Gage, and I want to ask you, talk a little bit, if you would, about your JV girls. I know they've had a chance to play some games already, and they've looked pretty decent. I know Watauga has a close matchup too with them. Just can you talk a little bit about that program and about the work that Austin's doing with them?
Austin's amazing. He's done a really good job, and as Coach Gage and I were both JV coaches, so we understand the importance of a JV program. We understand the importance of helping kids develop when they get to high school. They're super active. They're very entertaining. You know, I think Chella has a good upside. I think Callie Coffey is going to be super special for us in the future. Nevaeh Hart she's an athlete. We just got to teach her, you know, a little bit of the offensive efficiency side of basketball. Right. Addison Eggers is a super tough kid who loves basketball. Like, I'm excited about what they have, you know, in that JV locker room. Yeah. They're getting better every game, and that's what's most important. You know, a lot of them came to us with a lot of shaky fundamentals, and, you know, ball handling was pretty weak and things like that. But Austin's really kind of dove into those, you know, fundamental elements and teaching that, and they've really taken off. And it's hard, you know, every day in practice they're going against what I consider one of the best teams in the state. So that doesn't give them a day take any time off.
Boy, that's got to be a luxury for them, though. I mean, I know
It
you
makes
feel like
you a
you're
lot
taking
better.
your lumps, but it's got to help improve.
Yes, I remember as a JV coach when my teams would have to go against Hannah and Heaven and, you know, Faith Daniels and those girls, and it was constantly like a battle, you know, but they learned how to battle. And I'm going in a JV game, my gosh, if you could play with Hannah and Heaven, you can play with anybody. And so it gives them a good, quiet confidence to walk into JV games and be like, all right, it ain't going to be as bad as it is in practice every day. This would be a lot easier. But that's why we do it. You know, a lot of teams in our conference don't have a JV team anymore.
Right.
You know, and one thing Coach Shelton has always preached to me is as long as you can have a JV program, no matter what it costs. Like always, if it's 6 girls that'll work hard, have the JV team with 6 girls. You know, and Austin's done a good job going out and recruiting girls. He's got 12 in his program right now, who I think could, you know, in the future be good players for us.
I know I'll have to ask Coach Gage this one in our next conversation. I didn't give him a chance to brag about his assistants. Talk a little bit, you mentioned Austin, but you also have one a little more vocal than the others. We won't mention his name. I'll let you do that. Shoot the ball. It's so funny. I love Sam to death. Your husband, of course, her husband Sam is helping out on the team as an assistant. But Sam, also Alexis Stein's helping you as well, one of your former players.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit just about what they bring to the table for your team?
Samuel played college baseball, and he was a high school basketball player, so he can teach shooting mechanics a little bit. He likes to get in there and help with our post players, help them be more physical and things like that. He really is kind of like our body language, like our mental aspect guy. You know, he really pays attention to their preparation, their stretching. How are they mentally? You know, he's funny. He brings a lot of entertainment in the locker room and in my life in general. Austin is he's my X's and O's guy. He's a basketball mind. He loves the game. He loves to watch film. He loves to break it down. He's a coach's kid. Yeah. You know, I mean, he literally grew up in the gym. And he's brilliant when it comes to like really looking at film and saying, okay, how do we relate this on the court? Alexis, I'm super excited about because she was a point guard for me on my first team when we were just really struggling. And she was super long, athletic, had a lot of potential. And then her senior year got cut by COVID. So I think she would have had a really exceptional season had she gotten to play more games.
Right.
In that year, and she is very quiet, so we're trying to help her be more vocal, but she can play in practice. You know, she's long, no one has more length than her, and she still loves to hoop, and that's awesome.
That's great.
And the girls really relate to her because she's a little bit younger, so that's a lot of fun with her helping with our JV girls a lot. And you know, I like keeping things in the family. She loves Avery. She wants to be here in Avery County and be local, and so she's been a good addition to our staff.
Of course, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and we appreciate the sponsors we have. Of course, Big Mike's Coffee Shop sponsored our football season, and that was kind of cut as far as our interviews here because of my health issues, and Coach Farmer, of course, with some issues, personal issues as well going on. So wanted to make sure to come back here because I think we all like coffee, which works out really well, and I appreciate Big Mike's and their sponsorship and support of Avery Athletics across the board. But Johnson Event Productions, Kenny Johnson, you know Kenny pretty decently.
I love
of course,
that man.
you got her daughter, his daughter on your team, of course, with Hallie, and I know having him on board as a sponsor, I know is a big deal because I know he's also a coach, and I know he's worked with a lot of these players for a number of years. Can you just speak just a little bit about what he does to help this program?
Gosh. Kenny and Tammy are two of my favorite humans. Kenny, from the day that I got hired, Kenny was the most supportive person. Just in how to help grow the middle school program, how to help get these girls together. If we needed extra training, I mean, he's gone above and beyond trying to like help us fundraise. I mean, he does all these things that he doesn't have to do, but really pours into these girls, you know. And he's so excited about us all the time, you know, and he's our biggest advocate. And so, you know, with people like that in your corner, it's the most appreciated thing because being a coach can feel really lonely. Yeah. You know, but Kenny's the first to text me after a loss and say, you know, hey, they look great. They're going to be okay. You know, I'm going to make Hallie go. I think after the Watauga game, he said, Hallie looked tired. She'll be in better shape on Monday, you know, and you love parents like that because they really get it. You know, he's always trying to better the other players around. It's not just Hallie. It's how can we get Addison more reps? You know, he helped set up private training with her. You know, so many little things that we take for granted. that parents don't normally do. Kenny's all in on it, and he's trying to help us get a lot show. He's trying to help us get all this fun stuff for the girls, and it's a real blessing to have him in our corner.
I can't put anything past Kenny. He'll make it happen. And he supports all the athletics. He really does. He always has been.
And you got Luke, who's going to come up. John's going to inherit him after Hallie leaves, and it's really hard to put into words what those two kids mean to our basketball programs, because they just love ball. And when all else has failed and things have been going hard, I knew I could always look at Hallie and know that I always had somebody that just loved basketball too, and that's special. And
she's one that's been with your program for so long. I know I have photos of her as a ball girl helping you years ago at just Nihado Grasshopper. So
makes me sad. I can't even think about. I can't think about. I'm going to cry. I can't think about senior night or any of that stuff. When Tammy posts pictures of them when they were this big, it's crazy to think we're at senior year.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. As you get older, you get more of that. Just so you know, seeing you playing. I'm saying it's been a while, but so JV's always moved on. There's all these players that moved on. Now their kids playing. It's just it's amazing to see that kind of support. And I know as coaches that all y'all are so grateful for that.
Super special. I think, man, Emma Clark. I've got 3 generations of her sisters in my program. We started with Destiny and then Charity. Now I got Emma. And nobody's feistier than Emma. So.
She's a spark plug.
She is.
You can see temperaments of players. When you can see when a player gets out there, what they're going to bring.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me when you see a certain player on the floor. Yeah, that's I think about that with Maddie last year.
Yeah.
She's the one that's going to just bull in a china shop.
Yep.
She's going to do what she has to do to get to that ball. And just finding each person's kind of lane to run in is always important. But again, we wish you the very best of luck with Ashe County this evening. Of course, a very happy Thanksgiving as well. I know we're looking at just one game this week, a little bit of a break, and then back into the action again, back to the non-conference, getting busy. And do want to mention, of course, speak to I know the ribbon on you this today in memory of Tina Stamey, I know a teacher in the school system. Do just want to recognize that for a moment, and just wish our very best thoughts and wishes for her family as they go through a loss. And just I know the school system was pretty shook by that, and we do just wish them the best. Just continue to just send thoughts and prayers there as well. So, Coach, again, we thank you so much for the time. We'll be back checking in with you next week, talking about this Ashe game coming up, talk with you and also Coach Gage. And please bring players with you as well. I'd say it to you, and I'd say it to Coach Gage as well. Bring a player if you can get, and they want out of class, right? Maybe they get free coffee out of the deal. I don't know if they need it as hyped as they usually are, but bring them on with you. We'd be glad to bring them on and talk to them as well, especially about how their perspective is, not just of you guys, but their opponents, the teams they face, and what they see on the floor. I think it's a great viewpoint to get. So look forward to that as well. Coach, again, thank you for the time. Thank you all for watching, and just check us out down the road. We'll have, as we mentioned, post-game wrap-ups from all the games that we get to this season, especially the home games and hopefully some of the away games as well. And if we can drag a coach over to talk to us after the games, we'll do that too, just so you can get that kind of insight. Once again, I'm Jamie with the Avery Journal. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.